checking. All right. Welcome to 2 weeks to trademarks. Woohoo! Session 1, introduction and overview. I am your host, trademark attorney and instructor, Sonia Lakhani, also known as @trademark_lawyer_lady on Instagram. If you are an IG user and we do not already follow each other, please follow me. I'll follow you back. I'm on Twitter as TM Lawyer Lady, I think. Yeah, I had to abbreviate it. But those are the ones I use the most. So let's stay connected. Oops. Okay. All right. So those of you who do not know me, I'm Sonia. Hi. You may have come to me from being OG, from knowing me in the community, or you might be brand new and you're like, who's this chick? So just by way of introduction, I am Sonia. I'm founder of an award-winning trademark law practice, over 7 figures in yearly revenue and counting, creator of this course, 2 Weeks to Trademarks, and many more, more sort of specialized trainings on my website, which is lakhanilaw.com. Under courses, you can see all kinds of trainings, workbooks, things to come for the trademark practitioner. I went to Emory Law for undergrad, USC for, or sorry, I went to Emory Law for law school, USC for undergrad. There's some more, tidbits and facts. I've been practicing for 12.5 years. 7 of that is my own firm ownership. Before that, I kind of bounced around, did some different associate stuff. And this is the important part. I want you to know that I was able to do all of that without, I was never in top 10%, actually the bottom 10%, if we're being honest. I was like a horrible law student. I was never on law review, never on moot court, never worked at a big law firm. My parents didn't give me a small loan of $1 million. You know what I mean? Like none of that happened. Right. So, here I am still. And I think it's important to share because you can still make it whatever that means to you, right? Like if it's financial, if it's freedom, if it's whatever the case may be. All right. So again, let's stay in touch. I forgot the slide was in here. So IG is Trademark Lawyer Lady. Twitter is TM Lawyer Lady. This is important. A lot of you are not somehow part of the Facebook group, and that is like the best free game out there. So you're going to search trademark attorneys / lawyers. Like free. Now we have our own Facebook group called 2 Weeks to Trademarks Students. It's smaller, right? Because it's just those who are enrolled. So the way that you want to think about these 2 groups and these 2 communities, everybody's in trademarks, right? The big one, the trademark attorneys, lawyers that you see here, that's all the trademark attorneys, current, aspiring, veteran, beginner, everybody, someone who's brand new and is like intrigued by trademarks, that's everybody. So if you want a lot of opinions or like a lot of feedback, right, on a post, then post in there. But if you feel like kind of shy a little bit, like, hey, there's a lot of people in here and I don't want anyone to like, then maybe post in the smaller group because it's all your classmates, right? But that being said, you can now post anonymously. So when you do a post, it gives you the option to post anonymously, and I have to approve it, but of course we're going to approve it. And that's a nice way to get your thoughts up there. I've seen a few people already take advantage of that. So definitely please rely on your groups, because after we're done, in between, it's just such an amazing place to get support, to get community. Those of you who asked about your mastermind calls with me personally. So you do get 2 personal mastermind kind of strategy calls with me for your use. I would recommend using them after the course is over, right? Because you have all the opportunity to talk here. And then whatever you want one-on-one, we can talk about. Those are my Boss of an Empire students. So if you enrolled in that originally, or if you did the upgrade, you can still upgrade if you want to. That's all of week 3 that you see in the syllabus. So all the business, marketing, that kind of stuff is all the Empire upgrade. And those people get 2 calls with me personally, and you can take them, anytime really. What's the small group called? How's it spelled out? Sure. Let me put that in the chat. It's the name of the course. Oh, sorry. I just DM'd someone by accident. There we go. We'll update the slide to have that one in there too. Let me make a note of that. Also, another housekeeping thing in Kajabi, right? I know people have a love-hate relationship with Kajabi these days, it seems. You, in your welcome area, there are links to these groups directly that you can just click on. It'll take you straight to the Facebook groups. There's all kinds of like welcome information. So make sure you kind of like go through that as well in your welcome area. All right. Let's see. Question. I added it, but my name is, oh, I'll have someone go through and add everybody too. It's funny because the smaller group, people will request to join that because they're interested in the class, right? Interested in the program. And so it sounds funny, but we have to cross-check every single request for that group because we have to make sure you're really a student before we let you in. So it's a little bit of a longer process, but the big group, this one, huge. And like we do those, you know, weekly. So, all right. From the top, from the very beginning, like I said, I know some of you, this maybe feel like review for a lot of you, but I have got to make sure that I'm complete. So what is intellectual property, right? So broadly speaking, intellectual property is intangible proprietary information. It's stuff that we think about with our head, right? So all of the following fall under IP, but then they get separated out with one of the subgroups. So everything from a name, a logo, or a symbol, right? That's what we're here to talk about. To next on the spectrum, like a work of art and methodologies and processes, and then all the way to the other end of the spectrum of invention, algorithms, right? You know, kind of the more hard science stuff. And so within IP, right, you have the following subgroups of law, right? So you have trademarks, obviously, that's why we're here. We have copyrights, we have patents, and then we have trade secrets. By the way, you guys are free to take notes, but obviously this is being recorded and you're gonna get the slides too. The slides are always uploaded and included. You have all of this forever. Even God not willing, knock on wood, you know, if I pass away one day, it's all still here, right? So, and my successor will teach you guys. So you don't have to feel like you have to write every single thing down. Okay. Also, we have a way of downloading the transcript, not the chat transcript, but like the audio of what I'm saying. If you guys are interested in that, we can do so and provide it. It might be a little choppy just because it's AI, the way that it's done. But if you have an interest of that, you know, put a 1 in the chat and I'll see what I'll gauge the interest of getting the verbal downloaded, like into like a, you know, like a readable. Oh, great. Okay. Well, if you guys are interested, sure. All right. Let me make a note. Download audio transcription. All right. So within these areas, right? So trademarks, and this is important because even though you are only here for trademarks, your clients are going to have questions about this. They're going to come to you with, hey, this is this thing I made. Can I protect it? Right? This is a thing I thought of. Can I protect it? So you really do want to be very clear on what it is you do and don't do, depending on your interest level. So trademarks are going to be your name, logo, slogan, tagline, right? Copyrights, think C for work of creative authorship. That's the legal terminology, right? And that is going to be an area that you can or cannot elect to provide services for. So honestly, copyright applications are fairly straightforward. I don't really have a huge interest in copyright, so I don't really offer it, but there's someone on my team that knows it really well. So like if someone asks, we'll do it. But the copyright application is like $50. It's on a different website. It's like the ECOC or something, like the copyrightoffice.gov, something like that. And it's like pretty self-explanatory, but it does get a little sticky as to like uploading and trying to figure out what all you can protect and whatnot. And then of course there's copyright litigation. But yeah, I don't really deal with copyrights a ton. I also don't find them super lucrative, but other people have figured out a way to monetize them. My interest is just not there, right? And that's not a right or wrong question. It's a question of how do you want to spend your workday? And, you know, a big part of my teaching style and my promise to you guys is that this is not just like a straightforward, like practiceoftrademarks.com, right? Like this is teaching you guys like the business side, the running of a firm, and really most importantly, building out a lifestyle that meshes really nicely with your personality and with your life, with, you know, your interests. Like you can make money doing anything in this world, right? You can spend your workday doing whatever, but my goal for myself, right, which I've now reached. So my goal for my students, for you guys, is to give you the options and the tools to design out what you want to do during your workday, right? So if you're not interested in copyrights, then don't do it, right? Like there's no obligation to do. If you don't want to litigate, then don't. Like you don't have to do anything that you're not super interested in. And that's why I just want to share with you guys, like, you know, because a lot of people ask, like, do you only do trademarks? Like, you know, can you really build that? Yeah, absolutely you can. You can double, triple down on a practice area and say, this is all I'm going to do, right? But I have other students of mine, many of them are here, right, who offer business formations and they do contracts and you know, they'll help with, you know, different tax issues and advising on that kind of stuff. I mean, licensing, like they do all kinds of other ancillary practice areas, and that's okay too. It's all about what you're interested in and what you want to do, right? So that's copyrights. Now, patents, that is really where people a little bit are misinformed. And many of you, I know I've chatted with you before you looked at trademarks as a practice area. You're like, oh, I thought I had to have a special license or like a special bar or something. Not for us, right? But for patents, yeah, there's a special exam. There's like a requirement of a hard science background and I don't know, a whole list of stuff. I never really looked into it because again, I don't have a hard science background, don't intend on getting into it, and I have no interest in it. So that's not my jam. But again, if you do patents, adding on trademarks makes a lot of sense, right? If you do trademarks and you have an interest in patents, it makes a lot of sense because they do go together, and you're going to find clients that come to you, you know, wanting to see if you can do patents as well. And you're going to refer them out, or you're going to be like, no, I do that also, right? And then of course you have trade secrets, which is, you know, its own sort of animal that we really are not going to spend, you know, a ton of time on here. So main question, right, is again, I'm going to pepper throughout, you know, the business side of these conversations and always thinking about how what we're talking about fits into the larger business picture, because that is really the part that matters. Many of you have heard if you've known me for a while, you know my many business mantras, but one of them is it's no fun to learn a practice area if you have no one to do it for, right? Like there's no point. That's completely useless. So that's why I spend so much energy and time on these side conversations and discussions about business and about marketing and about systems and stuff like that. So when do trademarks come up, right? I mean, you have your clients right now and you're like, maybe you've done some trademarks, maybe you haven't. I'm just curious, let's get a little temperature, right? Because there's so many of us here today. Put an A, just to switch it up. Put an A if like you've been doing trademarks, you've been dabbling in it. Like you've got some experience doing trademarks. That's A. And put B if you're like brand new and you're like, I literally enrolled the other day, or like I've enrolled, but I haven't done anything, or like, you know, just like not really. Okay. Okay, so there's a healthy mix of you guys. Okay. And again, this is your guys' golden time frames, like these sessions. So throw in questions as I'm talking. You're not interrupting me. I'm here for you guys. Like I want to do this. So please hit me with the questions. And it actually helps me because if you direct me towards something that you're interested in or that you're wondering about, like it makes me feel like I'm giving you the value that you paid for to be here, right? So I welcome the questions. Okay, so broadly speaking, this is going to be a subset of business transactional law, right? So anytime you are seeing formations of new businesses, sorry about that typo, we'll get that fixed. Yikes. Anytime you see formations of new businesses, entities being formed, or even when companies are buying each other, acquiring, like when you see mergers, acquisitions, these are going to be the time frame where you see trademarks come up the most often. But of course, this is not the only two instances. There are other times as well, but these are kind of the main things to be on the lookout for. And so for my people here who do, let's say, estate planning, right? Does anybody do estate planning? Put a me in the chat if you do estate planning. Or if you do real estate, right? Okay, so estate planning is one of those areas where you're gonna see trademarks come up, even though it doesn't really like seem like it, because what is estate planning, right? It's protection for the future. Well, trademarks, and that's usually for like a person's personal assets, right? But when you have a bit, when your client is a business person, right? If they have businesses and companies and things like that, there's somebody who does business, they're also going to be wondering about that, right? Like who's the successor? Who's, I made a joke a few minutes ago about successor, who's taking over the business in case something happens to you. Sidebar, every single one of you needs to have a succession plan. If something happens to you, God not willing, like, are your passwords to anything anywhere? Like, how are your clients going to get taken care of? So total sidebar as we talk about estate planning, but plan your own estate too. Your business is estate. But you see this come up because the mindset is very similar, right? Your estate planning clients are in that mode already of, yes, I need to think for the future. Like I want to make sure I'm all buttoned up and protected. So introducing the idea of trademarks to your business clients, your estate planning folks that do business, is a natural transition. It's a natural fit. And it is why so many of my estate planning attorney students are successful, because you're not having to make that big of a jump to introduce this topic. And there's a like-mindedness there already. That prevention mentality, right, is really important versus, the fixing of it. And there's a joke in business. They say that it's easier to sell aspirin, like to cure a headache, than to sell the vitamin to prevent one. So when you have your protection-minded, vitamin-minded clients, you want to hold on to them, and you really want to make sure, because that mentality is really special. And that is where you're going to get the clients that really are great to work with it. It's just not this like tussle to get them to understand what you're trying to do, right? If someone's going to fight you on the concept of prevention and protection, that's an uphill battle. And I don't want you guys out here trying to fight that, because there's such an abundance of people who don't think that way, that I don't want to see you guys fighting around, right? So this is where you're going to see the concept of this arise the most. And this is where you want to be asking the question. And right there, the difference in a consultation or in a client call of saying, okay, so we're forming this LLC for you, this corporation. That's a great name. And sometimes it's obvious, right? Like, oh yeah, we're opening a restaurant. Okay. So have you trademarked the name? What are you doing about trademarks? Oh, wait, what? We didn't know. Oh, but I own the domain, right? How many of you put a 1 in the chat if you've heard that, right? Oh, I own the domain. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. Like, no. And here's the thing, that conversation might change the game for the client. And that is the start of this conversation. And unfortunately, I got news for you guys. It's on you to introduce that topic. It's on you to make sure that you're asking the right questions during a consultation, during intake, during your first or second or third client meeting, right? Or if you're listening to this and you're like, shit, and you've been working with clients for a while and you're like, dang, I never really thought to ask because I didn't know how to do a trademark. Well, soon you will. Ask the questions. Make sure you introduce the topics, because that is how it's going to come up, and they're relying on you for that advice. You're their trusted expert. I have a direct message here. Are there any other lesser known areas that TMs arise that a newbie wouldn't think of? Yes, I was just about to get to it. So one of my favorite ways that this arises, and we're kind of getting a little bit into referral sources too, and that's okay. Those of you in the Empire program, we have a whole session on building trademark referrals. So, we're going to get nuts with literally all the different types of people that are so specific that I want you to meet that can give you trademark referrals. So obviously business transactional attorneys, startup attorneys, yes. M&A attorneys, yes. Here's the one that is slept on, really well kept secret, but a lot of you guys may know this because I probably taught it to you if you've been around for a little bit. Franchise attorneys. Who knew that? Put a 1. Put a 1 in the chat if you knew that. Put a 2 if you're like, huh? Yeah, so those of you putting 1s, you've heard my speech before. Put a 2 if that's brand new news to you. Okay. And that's okay, because there is way more where that came from. I have a down and dirty list of probably almost a dozen best kept secret referral sources. And by secret, I don't mean no one knows it. I mean that you would only really know if you've been doing this for this long, where you're work smarter, not harder. I'm just going to make friends with a bunch of franchise attorneys. Right? Forget advertising, that is how I built my practice. If you've ever wondered and you're new here, that is how I built my practice. I have never spent a dime on SEO or on advertising or anything. Doesn't mean I've not spent any money. I have spent a boatload of money going to IFA, International Franchise Association conference. I'm going to meet all of you at your hangout. I'll go where you hang out. Fine. And guess what? The couple years I did it in a row, number one, I was one of the only trademark attorneys that were there. Amazing. And number two, some of the attorneys are still responsible for a bulk of my referrals, and my practice is almost all referrals. Like I don't do that because I was just like, let's shortcut this, right? Instead of being down the river stream, like, and waiting for what comes at the end, I'm going to go to the top, right? And that's where I'm thinking of. So we are absolutely going to spend lots of time on where these arise, but franchising is another one, is a big one, because in most instances, not all, but in most instances, you do need a federal trademark registration when the franchising documents and things are happening. I entertained the idea very briefly at one point about learning franchising because it is pretty lucrative. I'm not gonna lie to you, I did not find it interesting. And that is not a knock on franchising. It's just personal flavors and ice cream. Like, I'm chocolate. I found it to be a little vanilla. That's okay. It's not my cup of tea. But it is, they go, again, like patents, they go very well together. We have a comment here. It seems like most franchise attorneys I know do trademarks because the business is there. Yeah, a lot of them have wisened up over the years, but equally you'd be surprised at how many of them feel that way about this. I mean, learning a new area of law is not something that happens overnight. I mean, I know it's 2 weeks, but it's not overnight. And like, it's a big undertaking, as you guys are either seeing or going to see, right? And not everybody wants to. They're like, no, I'm going to leave that to them. I have attorneys that have taken my course that were like, you were amazing. The content was cool. Like, it was awesome. Everything was awesome. I just realized I don't want to learn a whole new area of law. I'm like, respect, like, then don't, you know what I mean? Like, that's totally fine. So equally, there are a lot of them that don't do it and that just aren't into it. My experience has been, as far as success of that, is really to go where there's lots of them. So IFA is one example of many, right? I mean, also like the local section bar committee, franchising, et cetera. ABA does a bunch of stuff with the ABA section on franchising. Those are some other sources and stuff, but that's a good way just to kind of have multiple conversations with a lot of them at once. But that being said, and we're veering off a little, but that's okay because it is kind of related. When you're looking at how to network, for example, right? And we're going to spend a lot of time on this in week 3. About, how to do your targeted network, the kinds of people you need to meet. And I don't want you just out there blasting just whoever and throwing spaghetti at the wall. That's like a waste of time, right? So the way to do this in a targeted way is to really look at the types of people you're trying to meet, literally going to their website, seeing what they offer and making a plan from there. And I have news for you. This may come as a surprise, but it is firsthand knowledge. Just because an area of law is on someone's website doesn't mean they do it or do it well or like doing it. I promise you, I've seen it 100 times. So please don't get intimidated or thrown off if someone's like, offering franchising and trademarks. Like, yeah, a lot of them do, right? But a lot of them don't. A story from my earliest days, 2015 is when I started my practice, January 30th, 2015, to be exact. And I hit the ground running and I started doing a search in Atlanta for business startup attorneys, right? Small business attorneys. And I found this amazing, like, he was like #1 on page 1 for like Atlanta business attorney. And I was like, and you know what? Like and this is what I try to, teach you guys, is that you got to go out and make your own luck. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm not afraid of this. Like, I'm gonna ask him to lunch. So, I mean, again, we'll talk a lot about this stuff and how I did it and how I can teach you guys to do it in week 3. But just to kind of recap this, since we're on a sidebar, we ended up having lunch. I ended up making a targeted plan, having lunches and coffees with very specific people. And I did this very intentionally. And we went to lunch and I was like, yeah, like, I would just love to know, like, so like, do you see a lot of trademarks, whatever? And he's like, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. And I was like, what? And he's like, I really don't like trademarks. He's like, I'm not into it. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea. I was like, oh, and he's like, I want to help you, kid. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I get obviously all kinds of business work, right? He's like, I like my agreements. I like my formations. I like my advising and my counseling. He's like, I know when trademarks arise and my clients get it, right? Because I'm telling them that they need it. But he's like, I don't want to be the one to do it. And I was like, and he's like, it's all yours from now on. To this day, you guys, it's been 7.5 years. And it's all over his website. He had a whole section on it. like a blog and like a FAQ on trademarks. I was like, wow, because he knows that like that's part of the area. Makes sense? Any questions before we move on? Okay. So why should you care, right? Really, what it should say here in parentheses is why should your client care? Because your client is going to be asking you this question. They may not say it, right? But if you are getting out there and marketing and advertising and doing your content and whatever, and you're not, getting people like clamoring to do this, it's because they're asking the question in the back of your mind, like, why should I care? Let me ask. So those of you who have been in trademarks for some time, or like, took the course before and have been marketing and stuff, put a 1 if you experience this mentality sometimes from whether you're on consultations or, people respond to your posts. Like, I don't get it. I don't see what the urgency is. Like, do you sense a lack of urgency? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know because I'm in it too. I deal with this all the time. I was at a get together yesterday, literally yesterday. And, it was like a pride post. The Long Beach Pride was yesterday. I live in California and I don't live in Long Beach, but I have friends that do. They were hosting a pride after party. So I went there, and long story short, there's a bunch of DJs and like music people there. And, so everyone's like talking about like, what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm a lawyer. And they're like, well, what kind of law? And I was like, I do brand protection, da, da, da. And, these music people are like, wait, like, oh, like, what about my DJ name? Like, what about our band name? Or like, we have like a collective, like, like an artist collective, for example. And I'm like, yeah, you should trademark the name. It's really good. Like, it's a really unique name. I'd be happy to help you with it. And literally they were like, why do I need it though? Because they're like, as far as I hear it, I made my DJ name. I have my website or my Instagram, right? That's what the kids are using, right? Like, I have my Instagram. I'm getting paid gigs. I don't see a problem here. Does that make sense? Like, put a 1 if you're like, yeah, like this is exactly what I've experienced in my own, and put a 2. If you put a 2, if you're like, no, I'm not there yet, and that's okay. Yeah, this is totally a thing. And it's a delicate balance between like educating somebody to get them there where they're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense, versus I still don't see it. That latter group is not your people. They're not, right? Because you don't want to have to fight someone to see your value or if they're already kind of like intrigued about it and asking questions, it's okay, because this, our area of law, for all that it is great lifestyle wise, and there are, right? You guys all know the benefits of it being paperless and flat fee, and, you can travel the world and it's location remote and all this kind of stuff. There are a couple downsides. One, which we haven't touched on, is that your malpractice insurance is definitely going to go up. I mean, we're in a very expensive area to insure. But I told most of you guys that, right? When we were at any point when you were thinking about enrolling, I was very honest with you. I'm like, yeah, that's a thing. The second thing is that someone is not muted. Hold on. Let me deal with that real quick. I'm just going to mute all just to preserve the recording. Okay. Oops. So where was I? Okay. So, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Wow, I hate when that happens. Okay, so what we were talking about is, really going after the people that get it versus the ones that are going to fight you on it. If they're going to fight you on it, that's not going to be a good client. Like, that's just going to be somebody that is really just going to be problematic from the beginning. And like I said, there are a couple of downsides to how great this practice area is. One is malpractice insurance. And the other one is this, what we're talking about. The initiative is on you. Yes, the other downside. Thank you. Yeah, the initiative is on you, right? To educate, to put content out. Because the one thing we don't have is this like sort of like what feels like, common sense for people, which is like, oh, I got a DUI. I need a DUI lawyer. Duh. Right? Like this is not that self-explanatory. So, where there's an up, there's a down, and this is one of the downsides. So the why should I care question is also like, can be rephrased as, what does my content and what do my conversations need to be like with people, with potential clients, current clients, right? To help them understand where this fits in and therefore why they should care. You can't make someone care about their brand. You can't. all you can do is educate them, right? Like that's the best you can do. And so, and again, we'll talk so much about referrals and building referrals and how this all starts. I mean, a lot of it starts from the beginning of like what your website looks like, what your messaging is. You'd be surprised at how you lay yourself out is actually the first step in drawing in the types of clients that you want to have that are going to get it, that are not going to hem and haw about a budget and so on. And all those questions just become a little bit easier. So we are going to spend a lot of time looking at your guys' materials and stuff. Like week 3 is going to be very heavy on the marketing and business stuff and less so on the legal stuff, because we're going to get through that weeks 1 and 2. As a side note, if you didn't notice this already, I should have said this in the beginning. Take a look at your syllabus. There's at least 2 sessions where it's just called recap group coaching, where there are no slides. Like I am literally that time and place. I am here for the time frame for you to come with your questions, come with your problems, your challenges. So you could be like, this is my website. Can you look at it and give me improvements? Like, why am I getting shitty people emailing me, fighting me on my price? And I'll be like, that's why, because you have that word on there, because that looks right there. That makes you look cheap. That's like, I'll give you that feedback. So that's a great example of something that you can bring to recap group coaching, for example. There's 2 of those sessions. And then there is a whole session on office hours. Like, again, I'm here just like old times when we were in school. Bring anything you want, substantive, legal, or otherwise. So please notate those. I'm going to be sitting here regardless. I have that time blocked out, and it's the closest you can get to one-on-one coaching. And also you have the benefit of everyone else being in class with you, where you can get multiple eyes on your website, for example, so we really did try to build in some group time as well. I said this before on social media and Instagram and stuff, when we were promoting the course for enrollment, that if there's enough interest and you feel like we didn't cover something over the next several days to your liking, and if there's enough people who want, a breakout session on something, like I said, I'm not traveling. This is my life for the next 3 weeks with you guys. So if we want a Saturday session or like a pop-up on this or that, like all you have to do is ask, and I will really try to make whatever I can happen. So if you want extra instruction on some of this stuff, like don't be shy. After the course concludes, I will be nowhere to be found. I am going on vacation. All right. So the why should I care? So, and again, I want you to always like take straight from my language, and you can either rip it off and say it exactly the same, or you can rephrase it in your own voice. But the idea is that this is 2 sides of the same coin, right? On one hand, yeah, you want to be careful, right? You don't want to step on somebody's toes and unknowingly be copying somebody from the jump, right? Before you've even done anything, right? Before you've even launched. And now you're living in a house that was not rented to you, that you don't own, right? Like that's not a good look. And I like to make analogies when I teach, because I also make analogies with my clients. I'm like, you can't rent out a house you don't own, right? You can't live it. You can't just show up with your belongings and open the door and start living there, right? You can't do that because you don't own the home. So you don't want to step on somebody's toes, especially being so small. So this is a way to kind of spin your marketing in a sense of like, for example, it's like, the one mistake you might be making if you are a startup entrepreneur on a low budget, right here. This is the one mistake you cannot afford to make because you're so small, right? So when you have your clients' objections and problems in mind, right? Or their, why should I care? Why I don't get it in mind. When you're clear on it, then you can answer every single one. They're not going to come out and ask you necessarily, but your answer has to speak to this if you want your marketing to be successful. Does that make sense? Yeah. Put a Y if you're following. Like a Y for yes. Makes sense. And we're going to talk a lot about this in Conquer the Consultation. Like that is the juice of that training and that's going to be week 3. I forget which day of week 3. I'm co-teaching that with Takora Davis, because together we slam that consultation process. But the cool thing is we do it a little bit differently, each of us. And so you're going to get the benefit of both of our personalities and our framework, and we're going to do scripted role play, and you'll see how we act out a consultation and address some of these. But your consultation, the way you run it, has to weave and fold in these ingredients along the way, because somebody may never ask you. They don't even know that this is their question. But when they don't jump to sign the retainer, this is why. Does that make sense? So on one hand, this is what you want to make sure you address, is that you can't afford to get into costly lawsuits and like an entire forced rebrand when you're so small, where like you have 3 customers, if even that, right? Like you haven't even made any money yet. You can't afford that, right? So that's one thing. The other hand, right, the other side of that coin is that if people are looking at what you're doing and it's clever and if it's cool, you don't want them to be able to open a spin-off and start diverting and stealing your customers. Like that's not a good look, and it's going to hurt you. Even if you have 2 customers to rub together and nothing else, you don't want to start a brand, right, where you already have copycats, or that you've chosen something that's already so overdone and saturated, right, that isn't new and isn't unique, and you're just going to get mixed up with everybody else. Like nobody wants that either. So that's another way to think about the same issue, right, but just turning it on its head a little bit, is that as a brand owner, if you're really going to build a brand, you really want to make sure that you do everything that you need to do to make sure that it's protected against copycats, against potential infringers. And on that note, there are certain things you have to do as a brand owner. And so if you have people that have been in business for a long time, you know, my real estate people, my estate planning people, right? Like this may be the first conversation they've ever had about trademarks, but they're like, I've had this restaurant for 25 years. I'm going to remute everybody because I can't have talk. Okay. So where was I? Yeah, you have certain legal duties as a brand owner. So on that note, I mean, like if you're talking with one of your estate planning clients or one of your real estate clients, and you introduce this topic, right? And you're like, you know, I just want you to know, I offer trademarks, and this is where, you know, as to your bit, I mean, and you would know because you've done their estate planning. So you know what assets they have, you know what companies they have. So the family restaurant, the food truck, whatever it is that they have, you're going to say, you know, I don't know if you've ever looked into trademarking this, but this is really important, because if you allow certain copycats to go on for a certain amount of time, right? Like you have a legal duty to enforce your brand responsibly, because obviously it makes sense, right? Like if you just let activity go for a while, you can't just wake up one day and be like, now I have a problem with it, right? How many of you guys have seen this? Like put a me in the chat if you've heard about this, like in the news, even like, you know, trademarks are in pop culture all the time, but this happens in the news a lot. Like if you don't object to your trademarks, if you don't say something, like you have a legal duty to police it as well. And that, by the way, we'll get into this later as well, but that is something to always be aware of. After the registration, there are so many numerous checkpoints and opportunities to continue earning revenue from the same client relationship. It does not and should not stop at registration. That is a shame, and you are leaving money on the table, because there's so much more that needs, I mean, you have to have a continuous watching, policing, monitoring of what you've worked so hard to achieve, right? So again, if you buy a house, you don't just leave it. You got to mow the lawn. You got to get the windows clean. You can't just leave a house just looking like that, right? There's maintenance that has to happen. And I don't mean the renewals, just the maintenance. Like there's more to it than that. Any questions about this before we keep going? Okay. So now diving in a little bit further. So like I said, you know, this is now home base for us over the next several weeks and for the duration of your time in this practice area, right? This is home. So words, designs, right? So logos like those pictured here are automatically going to default as called a design mark. And that's how the trademark office designates. So all of these are marks, okay, period. Everything is a mark. A word mark is just that, standard character mark, like literally the words, no font, no nothing fancy, just block character, standard character mark. If it has any kind of design, any kind of coloring, any kind of extra seasoning, it's now a design mark. And the best way, the easiest way to differentiate is if it's in a JPEG, for any reason, it's a design mark, period, because you're uploading it, versus typing in the words like Sonia Lakhani as 2 words, right? If it's got a design, anything, that's a design mark. You can also look at symbols, taglines, slogans, things like that. All of this falls under the umbrella of what we're learning and practicing. We have a question here. Do you use a company for the maintenance, or is that something people in your firm have to monitor? So Yeah, there are third-party companies that help with that. So Markify has a watch service. I know TMTKO, I've heard, does a few things with that. So we have kind of intentionally chosen the sorts of services that we want to offer, again, based on my interest and nothing else, right? Like, this may come as a surprise, but we don't offer a lot of services through my law firm that are very lucrative and that would be big money makers, or like additional revenue streams, simply because that's not something I'm passionate about. It's not something I have a huge interest in. It's kind of like copyright, right? So I always like to be transparent, because the fact that like I don't personally offer something does not mean I don't do it because it doesn't make any money. I'm very big, if you guys haven't figured this out already, I'm very big on loving what I do and doing what I love, right? And I don't do stuff just because it would make money. Like, that's not something that I'm interested in. But I also share this because that wasn't always the case, right? In the early days, I was like, look, we gotta get paid, all right? Like, that's what needs to happen. And I was like, I will review your contract, I will form your company, I will, like, again, within the realm of what I knew how to do. But slowly I was just like, I will be more successful and happier if I focus on what I enjoy. Like, I know it sounds hokey pokey, but that's my kind of take on it. But I respect a hustle. That's why I share, like, monitoring watch services. It's not something I'm very big on. I'm big on the brand audit. I love me a good brand audit. Like, I like touching base with my clients. Let's go to lunch, let's go to dinner, let's talk, or let's have a call, catch up. One thing I like to do is send like a little Starbucks e-gift card. And I'm like, let's have coffee. Like, you don't have to drive, you don't have to get dressed. And also, like, I live in California, right? So like, my clients are everywhere. One of the beauties of practicing trademark law, right? They're all over the place. And it's kind of fun. Like, my client will like log on from like zip lining, you know, in Costa Rica. And I'm like, oh, I love to see it. I like to see you enjoying your best life. I'm like, cool, I'm over here, whatever. And I'll send him like an e-gift card, like a Starbucks e-gift card, have coffee on me, and let's catch up. So I love me a good brand audit, because then I'm like, so what are you up to? Like, what new products are you rolling out? What new things are you doing? Product, services, right? Just like us, where we talk about our offerings, your clients are always going to be thinking about that next revenue stream as well. They just may not, unfortunately, remember to tell you about it. And so again, the initiative is on you. And so it's a dual purpose, but you're getting back in touch with your client. You are showing that you actually care, right? So it's like winning you client relationship points, but also it's going to result in new work as well. And so that's personally what I've chosen to do. I'm not big on watching and monitoring, but Markify, I know, definitely offers it, as well as a few other companies. So it's definitely worth looking into. And we can talk more about that too. Okay, so designations, this is basic for everybody, but I have to review it. TM and SM, right? Trademark and service mark. We knew that. This may come as news to you if you're brand new, but the TMs and SM have absolutely no legal, like real legal significance. That is your sort of like public statement in a way that you intend for this to be a trademark, that you want to have rights over it, that's your mindset. And maybe the application is in process, right? A lot of people do it then, but that doesn't really mean anything, like, in that sense. It's nice to have, you can or can't do it, but it's like, okay. Now, Circle R, that's the Olympic gold first place. Like, that's what we're after, right? And so the reverse is also true. Circle R cannot be used until you actually have a registration. So you hit submit on an application for your client. Great, I'll see you in 9 months. Right now it's like a year, right? Like, I'll see you in 9 months. Okay, that if it's anything, or it's in review, or there's an office action pending, or they're waiting for an SOU, or anything short. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. Anything short of a registration certificate with a registration number, no Circle R. And so if you see Circle R out and about around town, right, you're like, I'll look up the mark sometimes, and I'm like, that's not registered. Interesting, like, okay. But yeah, Circle R always and forever, only if you're registered. So we do our registration like brochure, like, congrats, you're registered, you can now use Circle R, and we teach them all the different things. That's only when. So if it's anything short of that, any stage pending, waiting, anything at all, no Circle R. Couple questions here. Is there a different designation for the supplemental register? No, it is Circle R. And that's actually one of the cool things is that like when people get and we'll talk about this for those of you who feel like this is like word vomit and like a foreign language, we'll get to this eventually, but there's something called the supplemental register, which is like second place trademark, right? It's not the Olympic gold, but it's like second place. It's still something. And there is a time and a place for it. We'll talk about it in another session. There's slides on it and everything. But one of the advantages of that is that you still get a Circle R. You get to have that too. It doesn't come with all the protections that principal register comes with, for example, but one of the similarities between the two is that yes, you can use Circle R. Literally taking 9 months just to get a first office action. Oh, I know. So those of you who are newish or getting into this area, one of the main questions, and of course, I'm going to teach this during Conquer the Consultation in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, sorry. How long is this going to take? Forever. Just forever. That's what, but you know what? It can also be a sense of urgency. And we'll talk about, you can always spin things. That's part of being a salesperson. And many of you have heard this mantra of mine before, is that if you don't think you're a salesperson, I have news for you. You are selling legal services. And mark my words, I will make a better salesperson out of you in the next few weeks, because I have to make sure that I give you guys the tools and the confidence to sell yourself, because you don't sell, or you sell legal service the way these people, sell coffee. And you have to know the answers to what is asked and is not being asked. Really, that's an art is, okay, well, what are they wondering about? What are they? And so like one of the things that comes up a lot, right, in Conquer the Consultation, my framework is process, time frame, cost, in that order, every single time, down to the words, commas, and periods. Now, I've been doing this for so long that I don't have a script anymore, but believe me, I don't deviate from it. I have it. It works. We have a 90+% close rate. I am not changing the vocabulary, the order, nothing. And I'm going to teach it all to you scripted, like we're going to lay it all out. You're going to hear me do it, on camera and show you how it works. Right. And so what the second factor is time frame, because people want to know how long this is going to take. Oh, well, can we expedite it? No, ma'am, we cannot. Oh, well, so it is 9 months for everybody, ma'am. Even trademark lawyer lady herself, I have some shit still pending. I don't know when it's gonna. I'm like, can I pull in a favor somewhere? No one cares about me. I get treated the same as everybody else. But you can, instead of looking at as a downside, almost everything can be flipped. Okay, well, if it's gonna take a while, you better file ASAP, get that clock rolling. The sooner you file, the sooner you'll hear back, right? Like, just because it takes a long time doesn't mean you put it off. It's like, pull the ticket and get going. And the analogy that I give, right, which you'll hear this in Conquer the Consultation, I'm like, it's kind of like going to the DMV, like you finally get there, you pull your ticket, you have your number, and you're like, oh, dang, I'm going to go get a coffee. I'll go have lunch. By the time I come back, we'll see where I'm at in the number, right? Like, that should be the first thing you do, is pull the ticket and then start your day, because by the time you get around to it, it'll be your turn, right? It's kind of the same thing. So there are ways to explain things. There are ways to spin things in your favor. And again, and not in like a icky way, but in a way that is going to help your business. So I have a quick question. Speaking of selling yourself and, kind of this process that we're talking about, put a 1 in the chat if you're comfortable, you are already doing it, or you're comfortable having these conversations and, and selling yourself, selling your services. Put a 2 if you're like, oh my God, this is so icky. Oh, I hate it so much. I hate it so much. Because I'm curious. I want to know how I can help you guys. Okay. Healthy mix. Lots of 1.5s. Okay. Hey, that's fair. All right. There was a comment that came in just before I gave the poll. I got a call from someone who went to an attorney who charged them for expedited services. I was like, there is no such thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, and again, we don't know what attorneys are up to and what they're doing. I will say that we have something where it's like a expedited offering, but it's like our work on it. So if you come to me and you're like, we need to know, but like end of business today, like we need that search done. I want to know if this name is available or not. Like people want to know ASAP, right? We'll do it. we'll expedite it. That's an expediting fee. Like I've got to tell somebody on my team to drop what they're doing, run a search report, get an opinion letter together. I've got to review it, make sure I know what the hell I'm talking about, and then explain it to you all in however time frame you requested it. So we do charge for that. Like if I have the bandwidth to handle it, sometimes we're just slammed and I'm just like, no, I'm sorry. Like we can't, you're gonna wait till tomorrow or wait till Friday. Like, so that could be an expediting. Or same thing, right? Like getting the application submitted, like on like your side of it as the attorney, like getting it done ASAP. But this attorney said the TM office has expedited filing services. Oh yeah, no, that's not right. Yeah, absolutely, Vanessa. Like that, you got to be super clear. Like I can expedite it from my side of it, absolutely. And again, this is all a sales aspect, which is why I asked like how comfortable you guys are, because I've realized over the years that it is these little tweaks that have made all the difference over the years, right? So for example, when I give a consult, I do my process, timeframe, cost. That's my framework, right? How long is this going to take? I'm like, well, our side of it is 3 to 5 business days. Now the USPTO has a whole nother bag of tricks and we don't know what they're doing over there. And I joke around like and this isn't everybody's style, but you have to find your voice and what works for you. But I'm like, we all know a good government agency, right? They take forever to do everything. And people are like, yeah, DMV. I'm like, yeah, like it's a joke, right? Like it's not meant to be offensive, but you got to put it in terms that people can relate to. And so I'm like, our typical time frame is 3 to 5 business days for a search, and then same for the application. However, I understand time is money. You're a business person. If you need us to move a little bit quicker, we can certainly do that for a blank fee and that fee is determined by how busy we are. Because, one thing that is important, kind of like how I said that I don't just do things because they make money. I'm also not going to throw my team members under the bus and ruin their evenings or make them stay late or get in earlier, log on early, not get in because we don't have a brick and mortar. But like, I'm not going to do that to my team member just because we're going to make more money. Like that's not a good look as far as your own core values and your own brand and your own culture as a firm, right? As a company. And I know it sounds really like foo-foo wee-wee, but these are the things I want you guys to already be thinking about, no matter what stage you're in, is like, what do I stand for, right? Like, what kind of business person do I want to be? That being said, it also depends on what the commas and zeros look like. If you got to make that money, you make that money and be like, I don't care what I have to do. If this person's paying me extra to have it done by tonight, you know what? We're not going to happy hour today. And that thing is canceled. And we're not doing that because this is more important. And I need to make sure that, that retainer means more to me, that expediting fee, right? So you have to think about it on your end, but the amount of that fee is set forth by what the workload looks like, what my staff's bandwidth is like. So for example, like, we're almost an all women team, powered by almost all women. Very proud of that. And that being said, a lot of them are moms of young kids, right? Like that's at least half of them I can think off the top of my head. Well, guess what? Babies get sick. Babies don't feel good. They wake up throwing up for no apparent reason, right? So if it's a day like that, you think I'm going to be like, hey, by the way, I know you're having the worst day ever, but we're getting paid extra. So I'm going to need you to no. But if it's a day where it's just like everything's hunky dory, then maybe we will, so it's a case by case thing. What is your typical window between research and opinion letter being sent? 3 to 5 business days. So from, consultation / being retained. Usually we are usually retained within 24 hours of the consultation process. It's very rare that it's more than a few days even. And we close close to 90% or more of our consultation. So I got this thing down pat. I mean, I've been doing it for 12 and a half years, so it makes sense. And again, I really hope none of you guys take this as me bragging. That's not the intent here. I'm very transparent about what I'm good at and then what I'm not. Like, nope, that's not my cup of tea. And I'm not good at that. I can't teach you that. I stay in my lane, but what I know how to do, I know how to do very well. And I teach you guys. So I'll always be honest with you about what I know and don't know. I agree with both of you, but that wasn't what the attorney was doing. Yeah, no, thank you for clarifying. Yeah, that makes sense. Talk your ish. That's why we are here. Thank you. No, I just want to, all in good fairness and fun. Any other questions before we keep going here? Okay, so in a sense, what I'm doing, and I always want you guys to be able to place what we're talking about into the larger picture. So what I'm doing essentially is giving you like the dry version of a consult of like all the things you need to know so that you can give a consult, right? Like this is not how I would give a consult, but these are all the things that come up in one, if that makes sense. But that's why we do this first, so that later on when, as basic as using some of these terms, you know what I'm saying, right? I want you to have the foundation down, but also like when I teach Conquer the Consultation and I'm like, yeah, blah, 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 international classes, da, 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 like, you're not like, well, what's an international class? Like, I want you to have that background. I have a quick question for you guys. So one of the things that, so you may notice that your template section is not in Kajabi yet, and that's because we're redoing some of them and making them a little bit better before we add them back in. And you're going to get a template fee agreement / letter of engagement. Some people call it that. You're going to get a template opinion letter for both a word mark and then the one we use for design mark. You're going to get template publication language, template statement of use language, like the registration brochure that I give out, you're going to get a copy of that. So we're going to arm you with everything, and everything's a Word document. So you can just save and start typing, because that's plug and play is what we like around here. But I had a question for you. One thing that we did not have previously, but my team and I were talking about it, and I was like, let me ask them, because I don't want to, I don't want to put stuff in there that's like not relevant or not needed. Put a 1 in the chat if you would like a glossary of terms, like definitions, like, or is that just like way too kindergartner and like embarrassing? Oh, really? Okay. Oh my God, we'll totally do it. Really? All right. Ask and you shall receive. Okay. Like a little cheat sheet of like, what does that mean? Like you can quickly, oh my God, you guys, I feel so bad. We could have just done it like overnight for you. Okay. Oh my God. We're so going to make this happen. I got you, fam. All right. Glossary coming at you. Really? Oh my God. Okay. I love when you guys just tell me what you want, because it makes it easier. Expeditiously. That's one of my favorite words right now. I'm like, I need, like within my friends, I'm like, expeditiously, please order chips and guac by the time I get there and a margarita. Expeditiously. You guys don't know, by the way, as a side note, how much I want to meet you guys and just do this in person one day. And oh my God, it would be so much fun. I'm stuck. Zoom won't, COVID won't let me be great. I have to do it on Zoom, but like, it's killing me that I can't see you guys and like, have like the interaction, because I'm such that person, but I digress. Okay. Humor me for a second. And if you're one of the people that doesn't want this, I'm sorry, give me 2 seconds here. Humor me, because we're going to download the chat transcript, right? After every session, so that we can review people's questions and make sure we get everything. Can you please drop, like, if there's, obviously I know all the major terms and stuff, like I know how to put this together, but is there anything that's like recurring, a word or a phrase that like, please make sure this gets into the glossary, because we're going to screenshot this aspect out of the chat. Supplemental register. Okay. Oh, thank you for the offer in Houston. Thank you. Thank you. Actually, on that note, there's so much to talk about. On that note, I do actually have something in the works for an in-person thing. I have the backing of a huge organization that wants to collaborate with me. So, because part of it is logistics, right? Like I am not an event planning company. Like I'm good at a lot of things, like I said, but not putting on events like that to that level of logistics that would require. But I do have the backing. We've been in talks. And I think that's something we can maybe make happen like next year in the spring. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm not mad at a Houston meetup. If anybody's ever in California, I mean, I would love to see you guys. Okay, so glossary for sure. I see some good terms in here. That's perfect. Keep adding on to it. I'm in Southern California. I live in Huntington Beach, which is Orange County. We are about 45 miles south of LA proper. So if you think about it, it goes LA, down some Orange County, down some San Diego, then down some Mexico. Oh yeah, you're super close. We thought we tried to do it. And I don't know if you guys remember seeing that doodle poll. We could not get like a good day. It was just, so we'll try it again. I know traffic's like a big factor too. Oh, awesome. Oh my gosh. Yay. All right. Awesome. Good. So many California faces. We love it. All right, you guys. I'm so like, I love that you guys want a glossary. I was like, is that going to be like too basic? Cause you're not like in 5th grade. I'm like, I don't want you to be like, dude, that's embarrassing. Like we know, we're attorneys, but at the same time, if you like, cheat sheets are great. One thing that I did put together for my own internal use was a cheat sheet of the fees. Because look, like, I'm sorry, but the USPTO website, their stupid chart goes on forever. Am I right? Like, the fees go on. I'm like, wait, what is the thing I'm trying to charge for? And, you know, especially when it comes to renewals and maintenance stuff, like one's $425 a class, one's this, like, you can't, that has to be baked into your fees. So like, if you do it wrong, then you'll make no pro. What if you're like, oh yeah, it's $500? Well, the fee alone is $425. So you want to make $75 on it. Like, you have to know these things. So, we're going to add a fee sheet too. I have it for my use, my internal use, but we'll give it to you guys too. All right. Got you. Anything else? Any requests? Like I said, my team and I are so into this. This is our life, breathing and living for the next 3 weeks. So if there's other resources, other stuff, like, let us know. Okay. So international classes, let me do a quick time check. Okay. So international classes. Oh, feature. Yay. I love this enthusiasm. You guys give me life. You really do. Oh my God. I love what I get to do so freaking much. And by the way, this is why I don't do random things, random to me, like watching and monitoring and stuff. I'm like, that doesn't excite me, but like getting to do this is like, you guys have no idea. I love this so much. Like, as much as you love it, I love it. And so I'd rather put my energy into this than like, you know, an area of law that like doesn't excite me. Okay. My charge light is on. So let me plug in. So, cause it would be the catastrophe of the day if I lost you guys on Zoom. All right. Any guidance if you have no background in trademarks at all, what to read in downtime? I like that. Okay, so downtime, obviously the USPTO has like their videos and they're not bad. Like, I'm not going to shit on the USPTO. It's there for a reason. INTA also has some pretty good like basic resources that are free. But also if you're here, that means that you have access to the entire old course. So you don't need me to watch through those. And this will breeze by a lot faster if you do have that background. So, I mean, the freest, quickest way is to go back into your portal and watch the old classes. I mean, that's the best place to start. But yeah, USPTO.gov is, and there's McCarthy's on Trademark, which is a treatise, you know, there's that. And then actually a lot of people don't think about this, but do you guys remember examples and explanations from law school, like E&E? I think there's one on trademarks. So like, order that on Amazon. I don't know. Are the templates identical to the ones we already received in 1.0? They're not identical. They're going to be similar, right? Like, you're going to get a fee agreement. You're going to get an opinion letter. Like, you're going to get the basics, but they're going to be like a little bit tweaked, just updated, because if I've changed something or done things a little bit differently, I want you to have that, right? I don't want you to have old stuff. If possible, a great resource would be IP audit outline checklist. Oh yeah, like a brand audit. Absolutely. Hold on. We got that too. I mean, we do those. Okay. I've already learned so much today. I love your vitamin client example. Good. I'm so glad. There is one also, Gilson on trademark. Yes, that's another one as well. Got you. A brand audit checklist coming at you. All right. I'm telling you guys, ask and you shall receive, because I kid you not, the day this class is over, I am going to be boarding a plane to it. I don't even know where I'm going yet. You'll see it on Instagram, but I'm nowhere to be found. So get at me. These 3 weeks, I am living and breathing. It's technically 3 weeks to trademarks at this point, but I digress. A notice to cease and desist template. Okay. So Chevelle, thank you. I'm so glad you brought that up. Remember how I was saying that I stayed in my lane, and I'm like very, you know, I don't have a problem selling myself or promoting myself. Like, I know what I'm good at, right? But then I'm also super honest about like, that ain't it for me. I don't do cease and desist. Like, I just don't. In fact, the very thought of writing a letter or receiving one is enough to mess up my day. Like, blah, like the anxiety that it would give me. I don't like conflict. Like, I'm a super happy, like it's icky to me. So I don't do it. I know. I feel like all I'm doing is telling you guys, like, I don't do that. I don't do that. And I don't mean it like that, but I really have to like stay true to my personality. Litigation or anything that smells like pre-lit is like, that being said, we do have a cease and desist class and a workbook. It's co-branded, as in it's on my website, but it's actually taught by Eric Pelton, who you guys, most of you know and love. He is also one of my guest speakers. He is teaching office action session with me next week. So he's going to be here. And he taught cease and desist letters. It is on my website. Let me see if I can find you guys a link. Hang on. Thank you, Gwenessa. I'm glad. Yeah, litigation is not me. Oh no, my screen is pausing. Okay. I know. Isn't it funny how everybody's talented differently? Some people love it. They're good at it. It works for them. Some people only do pre-lit, like, demand letters, and then they refer it. Some people love it. Yeah. And I love you guys who love it, because we need you guys. Like that's how change happens. But I don't have it in me. And so I'm like, oh, nope. So yeah, I'll get a link for you guys. But if you go to my website, Lakhani Law, under courses, you can see the entire store that we have. The goal is to be the Amazon of trademark practitioner materials. That's my goal. We're like 10% there. There is a class called Cease and Desist Letters. And it's a class that was like 3 hours that Eric taught, plus an entire workbook of like all the templates and like things that you would need. Again, I didn't teach that. It's just co-branded. It's on my website. Fun fact, can't believe I forgot to mention this. Fun fact, you guys have a standing 10% off discount at the store all year round with the code alumni. And I'll put this in your welcome area too. Excuse me. So I DM'd that by accident. Hang on. Why can I not? Oops. My Zoom is like wilding out. With the code alumni at the store upon checkout, you get 10% off all year round. So if you want cease and desist, if you want an office action workbook, if you need anything like additional, I really do, by the way, try to be very comprehensive in this course, like overly. But of course, there's going to be stuff that's spin-off, like cease and desist letters. Like I don't do it. It's not part of this. But you may need it someday. So there, it's there. And so you guys do get 10% off all stuff all year round. And if there's anything you have your eye on, just because, we're getting closer, in the fall, Cyber Monday is our big annual. It's the only sale of the year ever. It's 20% off site wide for everybody. And then you're 10% off stacks. So if you can wait till Cyber Monday, do it then. But yeah, we always have, extra resources in case you need them. Questions here. Would love to chat with someone who likes the litigation aspect to learn more, to see if I'd be interested in it. Curious about whether it's litigation. Yeah. I imagine it's not as bad. But I don't have any real firsthand knowledge of it. Okay. Yeah. Very structured. Okay. Comment here, private comment, referral fee agreement templates for those states that allow might be an idea for resource if already there. Oh yeah, that is a good idea. Thank you. We don't have that, but that's a good idea. Let me jot that down. Okay. Oh, awesome. Okay. Good. All right. So back to this. Okay. So, and again, keep it coming. Like this is a great discussion. Now you see why I tell you guys, it's not a hard stop at like 6, because there's so much to talk about and so much to cover. So international classes, again, what I'm teaching you guys is basically how all the stuff that I pack into a consult, but you'll see it come to life, when we actually do the role play. So international classes. Now, so you cannot and don't own a trademark, like a mark, just to own it. Like just because you thought of something cool. Like how many times have you guys been sitting around like Christmas time, the holidays, and someone's like, I have a phrase, I'm going to trademark that. I want to own that. Like you cannot just own it to own it. No one can. You have to, in a sense, declare what you're going to do with it, or what you're already doing with it, right? You have to have a declaration of what you're going to be selling under that mark. You have to pick. And I use the word declare because it's something that people can relate to. Like when you travel, like you have to declare your items, your customs, like if you take away nothing else, I mean, there's so many takeaways I'd like to think, but one of the things, if you take away nothing else, the best gift you can give to your business and to your own success is to learn to explain things in vocabulary that people can understand, because it's already part of what they've heard. Does that make sense? Rather than trying to introduce new words, it's just going to throw people off. So to this day, right, I explain office actions as complications. Everybody understands that. Oh, you get a surgery. I hope there's no complications. Oh, blah, blah, blah is a complication. Like take words from everyday life. And I'm going to teach you all of them, right? Like I'll give you all the ones I've got. Office action, AKA a complication. International classes, you have to declare. right? Like these are these words from everyday language. When we do an office action response, and I explain even in the consult, I'm like, yeah, there could be a complication and we may have to respond. And just like a trial, there's a judge, like a jury, right? We have examiners, and someone has to lose, unfortunately. I'm sure you've seen famous trials on TV and both sides are prepared. But you know what? Even the best prepared case, someone loses. And unfortunately, once in a blue moon, we do lose. Yeah, like when you put it that way, right? If on the off chance that you are not successful in an office actions, like it happens, but the blame should not get placed on you, and it won't, because of the way that you're framing it, right? So vocabulary goes a long way. Like learning to explain these things goes a long way. So that being said, an international class is a category, right? You know what might be helpful? I might, as we do the glossary, like the terms, I might throw in like my AKAs for you guys in case you want to pull from that. So like I call ICs, I call them categories. What category, right? Like just to kind of make it like something that people can understand. Yeah, and you can just copy me, I don't care. Yeah, okay, great. So with international classes, anything under the sun that you would want to sell, right? Product or service. And again, goods, we call them products, just easier. Any product or service that you want to offer, that you want to sell, right, has an international class, AKA a category number. There are categories 1 through 45. That's how many there are. And they're finite, like things fall into certain categories, and classes like 1 through 20 something are goods classes, AKA products classes, and the rest through 45 are service classes. Make sense? We'll get more into which items fall into which classes in another session, especially when we get into searching. That's a big part of it. So searching is the next aspect of this. So once you've decided what the mark's going to be and what classes, AKA categories, you want to sell in, as in like, what are the things you're going to do with the trademark? Do you want to make apparel? Do you want to sell consulting services, legal services, right? Like if you want to trademark a firm logo, for example. And a lot of my attorney students, that's their first practice trademark, is filing for your own logo. Right? Like it's a great way to practice. Even if you go through the screen, but don't finish it, it's like a great way to see all the different stuff. So the person who was asking about homework, I mean, it's not homework, or sorry, not homework, like additional beginner resources. As funny as it sounds, your girl learned that back in the day. Like I would come home from work and like sit down and punch in dummy marks and go through I would click different things just to see what was on the next screen. I mean, when I say I'm self-taught, it's like not an exaggeration at all. And that is why one of the many, many reasons I created this program is because I was like, I don't want anyone to ever go through this again. It was awful. And I was like teaching myself sometimes wrong. I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that once. And it's like, no, that's not that. Like you got it wrong. I'm like, oh shit, sorry. You know, like I thought miscellaneous area was like a free form. I'm like, no, like that slows down your application. Don't touch that area, you know, stuff like that. So when we get into searching, that's the first stage of the actual client delivery process. And so what that means is that you're going to take the mark and you're going to take the categories, the international classes that the client wants to sell in, and you got to run a search for similar marks in similar categories. Note that I didn't say the same. Similarity is enough to cause you a problem. That's another one of my mantras during consult times, is I'm like, I know it sucks, but it's like in our world, the way the law is written, and I say this exactly this way, the way the law is written, similarity is enough to be a problem, period. It doesn't have to be the same to cause an issue. So right off the bat, we answer issues about, well, I'm selling shoes, not apparel. I know, sir, I said similarity, right? Like, so that's the search aspect. And so we're going to talk in the search classes. You've got 2 search classes coming up. If you look on the syllabus, there's 2 search classes. And we're going to talk about taking the categories and showing you how to run a search, and then showing you how to review those results to the point, you know, to then get to an opinion letter, write one up, right? And in your case, since you have a template, how to make, you know, how to go off of the template, fill in the necessary information, and then how to have the explanatory call, right? With your client, explaining those results. Will you discuss how you go about telling a client that they need to rebrand due to similarity? Yeah, we could talk about that. It's not a fun conversation, and my answer to that is usually pretty simple. I'm like, listen, I'm good at certain things and I am not a creative person. I can name my own stuff, sometimes, but not really. I mean, I chose a really descriptive name for my course, but I didn't care to I didn't care to have it be, the direction I was going is I wanted it to be descriptive. Like that was very intentional at the time because it was new, right? And I wanted to make sure people knew exactly what it was. But yes, we will go over that. And so the reason you have 2 search sessions, you'll see on the syllabus, one is search via tests, right? And then one is searching with Markify, because the session on searching with tests is using the USPTO's free database. I am not a fan of tests myself. I think it's janky. I think it's clunky. That being said, there are some very useful aspects to it, a lot of technical stuff and a lot of cool tricks and things you can see using tests that are not widely discussed. And so who do I have for you? No better than a recently resigned examining attorney to teach you tests. You're welcome. Her name is Rachel Dixon. She's the one leading the session on tests. You'll see her information in the syllabus. I'm so excited to have her. You guys, we have like an amazing all-star lineup. Like I am just shooketh. Like we've got her, we've got Takora, we've got Eric Pelton. Empire Week, you have the two attorney girls, Anina and Chandler, who are social media wizards. They help so much with content and strategy and stuff. And then Tara Muccitelli, who is one of my amazing paralegals, is going to be teaching how we do hiring and delegating and managing and all the stuff that you can outsource out. Amazingness. So again, if you have questions for anyone or anything you see in the syllabus, shoot it over and we'll figure out a way to incorporate, make sure your questions get answered. So we're going to be doing a session on test searching. And then the second session is the one I'm going to be leading, which is through Markify. And that, if you're not familiar with them, that is it's a third-party company. It's a software company that literally creates the report for you once you order the search, right? And you input the mark, the classes, et cetera. And then using AI and really good technology and algorithms and stuff, it extracts out all variations of the mark, all variations of the class. Like it's a really wide net, like tons and tons of hits and results. And then we show you obviously how to pull those results and put them into an opinion letter based on what you're seeing. And then again, how to, of course, assess the risk of like what is involved, right? And the way we do it is low risk, high risk, moderate risk. And the way I explain it during a consult is red light, green light, yellow light, or somewhere in between, and why. So that way you can make an informed decision as to whether you want to proceed. Make sense? Any questions? Any questions? Will you cover foreign registration? That is not part of the syllabus. However, if there's enough interest, I can try to get like a breakout session together. I know that's something that a lot of people have questions about. I know enough to be dangerous because obviously I've done it, but it's not I talked to Eric about this too. Neither of us, it's not a huge part of either of our practices, but that's not to say that we can't teach it. So that's a TBD. That's a TBD. If you're interested, put a +1 like Samantha did. Thank you for that. And then, we'll take like a gauge. Okay. Yeah, we can get you enough to be informed about the process. Cause I mean, it's good to know. Yeah. Canada, China, Mexico, those are our major. Yeah. Those are the ones major that you're going to want to know. Okay. So that's my spiel on international classes containing goods and services. Okay. Now, myths, as I said, we'll come back to the domain name thing and that kind of stuff. So I'm just curious, how many of you know the difference between a trade name versus a trademark? Put a 1. If you do know the difference, if you do not, put a 2. Okay, healthy mix, which is good. Okay, so trade name / DBA is essentially like the name of the LLC or the corporation, the entity in the Secretary of State. Now, again, my slides, as I mentioned, are kind of dual purpose here. I'm educating you, right? If you're in the stage that you need it, but I'm also in a sense giving you a consultation. So I want you to like pass this on. This is like the stuff you're going to cover in a consultation as well. And when we do conquer the consultation, it will all come together and all make sense. But I'm telling you guys this because these are the things that people misunderstand, don't realize, don't know, and that it is on you to make sure you cover it, because people don't know what they don't know. They have no, if you don't know what to ask, like you wouldn't even, like, how are you going to ask, right? Like, so trade name / DBA, that's referring to the Secretary of State entity that is created, whether it's an LLC, corp, whatever. Like that's just your trade name, meaning that's your right to do business in that state. It's an accounting tax thing. It's not a legal thing. I know a lot of people now, yeah, it's legal as in, you know, what you do with the corporation and what's under in the operating agreement and the bylaws and stuff like that. But for example, choosing between LLC and corp, and some of my business people can chime in here, that's an accounting and tax thing. It's largely dependent on your revenue, what state you're in, what, you know, your tax strategy is, all that kind of stuff. The point is that an entity, any entity, is your right to do business in that state. Okay, that's all it is. And it lets you get an EIN, for example, and lets you kind of, you know, and we all did that, right? Well, most of us, when we formed our law corp or our law LLC. That is done through the Secretary of State. Okay, in whatever state this business is located in. Some people choose Delaware and Nevada and stuff for other reasons, and that's a topic we're not talking about right now. Now, the Secretary of States do not talk to each other. So you could literally have a whatever LLC, ABC LLC in Oregon, and then do it again in Texas, because the Secretary of States are like, yeah, and it can be one letter off. As long as you change it just slightly, it doesn't match anything, it will probably be approved. Because it's an LLC, it's a corp, it's a Secretary of State filing, and they're like, all right, that's what you want to call your corporation, cool, whatever. So they don't talk to each other, right? And none of them talk to the USPTO. So USPTO handles trademark, which is now, that's the brand, and that's on a federal level. And that is the reason why you cannot have a slight variation, right? Like if you have ABC and then ABC restaurant, both of those are not going to be allowed on the register. Whereas if you did that to change it, you know, in an LLC, you'd be approved because it's technically different. So this is really important, because I'm sure this is news to at least somebody here, right? And I guarantee you this is news to a majority of your potential clients or current clients. If they're not in this world, like they're just like, what? I'm like, yeah, I got news for you. So again, always be thinking about how you can answer these things on the front end. And also, I mean, the unspoken thing here that we'll talk about during Empire Week is extracting out these little pieces and making them the subject of a blog post, the subject of a video, the subject of, and it's not a question of, today we're going to be talking about the difference between a trade name and a trademark. Snore, right? That's not going to get the attention of somebody scrolling, right? Again, people like things like on BuzzFeed, you know, like the 5 mistakes, the 3 reasons why, you know, take a quiz to see what kind of bread you are. Like there's a reason that people like those sorts of things, right? And I really encourage you guys to just respin things in a way that will get somebody clicking on it. So for example, you know, with this, you know, the mistake you might be making if all you've done for your business is create an LLC. What mistake did I make? Right? Like why you might not be covered even though you did your Secretary of State filing. Wait, what? So it's educational. It's saying the exact same thing, but it's speaking to something that is just a little bit more interesting than trade name versus trademark. Like nobody besides us cares about that the way it's stated. And we barely do. Like it's not the sexiest thing in the world, but it's important. Thank you, Danielle. The DBA can be separately filed for an alternative name in each county for Georgia entities. Thank you for that. Yes, our corporate people can always step in for that stuff. So similarly, domain names as to ownership. So I joked about this before, but if I had $1 for every single time someone was like, oh, even at parties or even in consultations, doesn't matter the situation. Someone's like, oh, I own the domain, like I was available, so I think I'm all covered. Oh, are you? I can guarantee you that you're not. Now, a domain name being available is a nice indication that there may be some space here for this brand, but it's not a guarantee. And it's not a trademark. Domain names are domain names. That's your right. The way that a trademark is a trade name is the right to do business in a state. A domain name is the right to host a website at that domain name. That's it. It's just the right to host a website. It has nothing to do with, filing at the USPTO. Now, again, they're related to each other. Just like if there's a trade name, ABC restaurant, if there's a company out there, then yeah, there's a good chance that the trademark's not available. But chance and correlation is not equivalent to, right? So they're all in the same kind of web, but you have to see how they're interconnected or not, as the case may be. So domain names, GoDaddy, Google domain, Namecheap, whatever they're called, just because it's available does not mean it does not indicate availability. It can just provide you a little bit more information. So if abcrestaurant.com is taken and there's a restaurant website with locations and a menu and stuff, yeah, probably not worth going any further, right? But the reverse is not true. Make sense? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, moving on. Okay, so international classes, like I mentioned, this is a recap, and I apologize, the dollar amount did not get updated here. Let me go back. Is there any liability for having a domain name that someone else has registered as a trademark? Liability is going to speak to what you're doing, right? And again, that's going to go into junior, senior user, data first use in commerce, things, similarity of the marks. So the analysis is the same. Are the two marks similar, right? Are the goods and services similar? And I know you guys, my newbies are like, wait, what? We didn't talk about that. We're not there yet. But the analysis, I'm going to teach you guys that analysis of how the USPTO looks at this for the likelihood of confusion. We'll get into that in the next, another session. But the analysis is the same. So it depends what you're doing with that website. I don't think having the website necessarily, if it's just zeroed out and it's just like an administrative message, I don't think that provides liability, but it's what you do there. A question to me, you're welcome. Question to me directly. Is it worthwhile to go to IFA Leadership Summit and FAN annual meeting in DC? Yeah, it is. I think it absolutely is. Caveat though, it depends how you do at conferences or how you can do at conferences. If you are the type, and this is not a negative comment at all, if you are not the type of person that can talk to strangers with comfort, conferences are not going to be it, right? Because that's like the thing you hate the most times 1,000. Like that sucks. Why would you put yourself in a position and pay to be miserable, right? If you have other options where you're looking at, your marketing plan and your strategy, where you're going to put your marketing dollars, if you have other options and other avenues that you think would be less painful, right? And we can, if you're, your Empire, the person who asked it is Empire. So, we can talk about this for you personally. And for anyone who wants that instruction, like if you're Empire, you get those calls. We'll sit down and talk for you what a plan could be. A lot of my Empire calls are with parents of young children who are like, look, I can maybe get away one time a year and it better be worth it. But I'm a young mom. I'm like, all right, no. All right, I have an idea for you. Save the money you would have spent and do blank, blank, and blank instead from the comfort of your home, right? So it just depends. It depends on your personality, depends on your lifestyle, whether conferences, for example, are a good idea. I mean, topically, substantively, absolutely. I mean, you're going to get all these people in one room. So it's not that. It's a question of like, will it be worth it for you, right? Like, I know people that go to conferences and like, they just hang out with like the two people they know the entire time. That's not the best ROI then, right? So it depends how you do conferences. We can certainly talk more about the different ways to market and the different ways to put yourself out there. This person said IFA Leadership Summit and FAN annual meeting, but you can also look at the ABA section on franchising in addition to the IFA as well. Okay. I think we are at, okay, so we are at time as far as my content for today. You are welcome. We're on time as far as my content. Like I said, introduction and overview today, not going super deep, but we're always going to hit the business stuff along the way. There's no course on law, an area of law, without talking about how it fits into the business equation. I had a direct message here. My understanding is that an entity that is using a trademark for a good or service that is different from their entity name, they need a DBA before they file for the TM. For example, I have ABC LLC and my trademark is XYZ. I need to have XYZ as a DBA. That is not my understanding. That is not my understanding. Somebody else can chime in. You're welcome. Yeah, that's not, to my knowledge, that's not, I mean, you can apply for a trademark as an individual, as you, and whatever company. It's, I mean, again, I always like to think of things like outside of the box that I'm in. So I'm like, well, Nabisco, right, is a parent company for like a gajillion products and they apply for, you know what I'm saying? So you don't need like every single product LLC. Yeah, or a DBA. No, you don't. You definitely don't. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Hopefully that's good news because it's less to think about. I had a question here. And again, as we're wrapping up, guys, throw in anything you want in the chat, questions, comments, anything at all, because we are like sort of rounding out for today. But I'm just going to take care of somebody, a housekeeping roundup while we are still going here. Okay, so I was late today. When and how can we review the recording, please? Okay, my apologies sincerely to those of you who are sick and tired of the Kajabi speech. I'm sorry. If you're tired of hearing it, think about how I feel giving it. Okay, can we pour some out for the speech I keep having to give? All right, it's okay. All right, guys. So, Kajabi is your one task, is to situate your login. I know several people are having issues with their passwords and trying to figure it out. So shoot me an email. We'll get you all squared away. Just if you've sent one already, please wait on a response. Everybody is doing their absolute best in my inbox. Like I haven't even seen it at all, but they are amazing. Like my team is just so incredible and so fast. So they are going to get to every single person. The best way is to shoot me an email. Please do not use Facebook. Please do not use Instagram. Like let us keep it all in the inbox so we can, troubleshoot with you. But Kajabi is Netflix for purposes of what we're doing. Meaning once you get your login credentials and you're in, save it, write it down somewhere, use one password. If you're not already, use something to save your password. So it's not this pain all the time. Once you log in, that's your portal. And you're going to be able to view all the modules. That's where we upload all the videos. That's where we upload all the slides. That's where we upload things like a glossary and little, templates and perks and things like that, all that, this kind of stuff. Like that's where it's all gonna be. Okay. That's where all the Zoom links are for every single session. So I reiterate, if you take nothing else away, please hear me loud and clear. There will be no mass emails every day with Zoom links. We cannot do it. People have spam filters. They come back undeliverable, this, that, like we just can't do it that way. And it's not, you guys know that I operate on efficiency and scaling, right? I would have never been able to scale this program to over 500-ish students and counting. Like we're still getting people, right? Like every day. I would have never been able to scale this if I didn't have some, some organization and process on the back end. So Kajabi is where the recordings are. And they'll be uploaded nightly. Like when we finish here, we're going to upload it. That's where Zoom links are for every single day. The module is there, the title of the class, the link is there. Okay. It's a different link for each session because they're at different days and times. What else? Syllabus will be there. We're going to add that in. Any questions at all? So please, I beg of you, please get your Kajabi login situated. If you have any problems, shoot us an email. You can reply back to any of the emails. They all come to me. And the one thing to remember when it comes to emails is that we are going off the email that you used to purchase the course, whatever you originally enrolled. Okay. So if you want to change it, we can. Just give us a day or two, right? Let us know. But if you're wondering how to get it, that's where it's at. So if you have a Gmail, look there, right? If you use alternate emails or whatever the case may be, look there and look in your spam, look in your junk, because I promise you emails have been going to something because you registered, right? You bought the course. So it's going somewhere. It's just a matter of you remembering what you used to purchase. And that's all that we can, that's all we can do. The best place to ask questions, you want to drop them in Kajabi. So you can comment on different modules, you can do that kind of stuff. And the best thing is to drop them in there. This 3-week period, if you didn't hear my little speech before, is my dedication to you. I'm so pleased to be able to provide it for free to every single person who's ever bought it, right? We're not charging for this. If you paid, it's because you just enrolled, right? And so this is like your first crack at it, but you do get the old content too, and that's not going anywhere. And my promise to you guys, I really want I want to make this an amazing experience for you. So for these 3 weeks that we're in session with each other, you can ask questions. You can, put them in Kajabi. You can email me with them. I really beg to not have them on Facebook and Instagram because we can't, round them up from all the different places. But if you, follow our process, and I will answer any questions at the top of the next session as we start out. And the only thing I ask is that we make it a question that everyone can benefit from. I'm not going to be able to answer specific client scenarios. That is for the group or for one of our personal calls. Question here, is there a federal trademark association or section in the ABA we should join? Absolutely. INTA is expensive, definitely expensive, but some people find it worth the while. The ABA has a section IPL. So that's a little bit more, I think it's a lot more affordable actually. You can definitely join that. Alt Legal has an amazing mailing list. They send out a newsletter like once a week or something, and it's got great content, great free webinars, all kinds of cool stuff. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Let me scroll up here. This is more of an Empire question, but if you're taking Q&As, can I ask it here? It's easier for me to talk into the mic. Yes, hang on one sec. Let me just cover everything else. And as long as it's a question that everyone can benefit from, because I really want to make sure that everyone gets the benefit of being here. Thank you. Loving it so far. Our personalities are similar. I've been litigating for over a year and breaking out into hives every week. Oh no, I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to have you. Question here, are we going directly to Kajabi website to log in, or is there a particular Kajabi page for you? If so, can you drop it? I think the best thing is for you to email. Like if you have trouble with whatever was sent to you, like email them and they can get you situated. Respectfully, like I'm not a Kajabi expert. I know enough, obviously, like I was part of the design, but the admin of that, we've got a couple team members helping out. The Trademark Association I answered. Which email should we use? Answered that. This is more of an, yes, we'll come back to that in a moment. Will the slides be updated? Yes. Slides, video, everything. That is your one-stop shop. Kajabi all day using the email address that you signed up with. And check junk, check spam. If you're not sure, if you'd like to know the email address we have on file for you, we will tell you. Because it's going somewhere. I promise you, there's nobody that is not getting any email. Like it's going somewhere. I have no way of knowing if you don't check that email anymore. How am I supposed to know? Like our system has no way of knowing. It's all electronic, right? You're welcome. My pleasure. Okay. Tara, if you want to pop on and ask your questions, go ahead. As long as they're applicable to a general group. Yes. Yes. Jabrina, spam, junk.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. Hello, everyone. Me coming to San Pedro at the end of the month. See you then. 2 quick questions. The first is, so you mentioned in the first version of 2 weeks that you have, I guess it's a formalized referral program. You were saying, for example, 25% of your practice of your income actually comes from referrals when you refer people out to others, and then you're getting the attorney fee. And I was wondering, how did you actually create that kind of a formalized agreement? Because I know a lot of attorneys will refer out and they don't ask, for the referral fee in advance, or in exchange for, but how do you go about actually asking the question or having that kind of an understanding with another attorney? And the other question is, it would be really helpful to get an idea if maybe what you pay for recurring operational expenses monthly minus salaries. So for your software systems, your malpractice, just to kind of give an idea. And obviously you're not a beginner, so I mean, your costs are probably going to be a lot higher, but it would sort of give me an idea starting out as to maybe how much of my savings I might want to invest if I choose to actually spend a little bit more, because I would look at it as I'm going to have a greater return on investment, and I'll be able to replenish that minus the salary, because I'm obviously not at that point where I'm going to be able to afford anyone other than doing somebody part-time and on a contract basis. So that would be really helpful. You don't have to answer that right now, but at some point, if you could maybe give some dollar figure stats on your monthly operational expenses, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
those of you who don't know me already, I'm an open book. You can ask me anything you want. Almost any. I mean, somebody will find something that I can't answer, but generally, I mean, 98.999%. I'm willing to answer. And yes, I think the best thing is for me to like give you guys a screen share of like a expenses breakdown, like taking away salaries, just so you can kind of get a ballpark of like, hey, we pay this much for alt legal, we pay this much for this, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, Calendly is $10 a month, you know, that kind of stuff. I'm more than happy to share that. Let me make a note to put that together for you guys. We have obviously our financial documents like on the back end, but I'm going to have to like, you know, simplify it so that it's like a one pager for you guys. But yeah, I mean, of course I'll share it. Why not? Not a problem. Okay. Now back to your other question. So as far as referral income, I think it may have come off as a little bit more formalized than it really is in practice, but I'm happy to clarify. So when I say that I make a good chunk of money from referral income, it's not a program or any sort of real strategy that I outline. What it is being the point person, right, for my clients as far as either one of the few attorneys they've ever dealt with or the only attorney that they've ever dealt, for example, right? Or one that they feel comfortable coming to. And I start, if there's anything I do, for example, is that I create that from the outset, like at the consult, I'm like, by the way, you know, I know I only do trademarks. If you ever have any other questions for any other legal area and things are going to come up, obviously, please check with me first. I would be happy to, I have a great network and I'm very well connected. I would rather, you know, place you with somebody in the hands that I can, you know, feel good about rather than you just Google and find someone random off the internet. And they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. Absolutely. And so that's something that we talk about in the beginning and throughout our communications. That is something that like, we always sign off with, like, if I can ever, you know, if you have any other additional questions, please let me know. Even if they don't relate to trademark law, I'm happy to be a resource for you. So we invite those questions about, hey, do you have a divorce lawyer in Maryland? Do you blah, 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 whatever. So that's one angle of how it goes, right? Like people will come to us for that because we've invited that. Now, the other way that, in terms of it monetizing, I mean, vast majority of it has been personal injury income, and that is mandated, right? So it's like a percentage split that's very commonplace, that's understood, and it's allowed. And so, I mean, when it's as simple as this, like when my business clients have car accidents, like, or know somebody, right? Like me simply making that connection is like what that referral income has happened. Like it's literally that simple and that informal.
I mean, what I'm saying is, if you reach out to a colleague, right, and you want to refer a case, like, are you saying, you know, in a nutshell, here's a case, I'd like to get a referral fee for it? I mean, that's what I'm saying, and that's awkward. How do you come to that understanding? Because a lot of my colleagues, I mean, especially if they're friends or they want to help someone out, they typically don't seek a referral fee because they feel like they'll be rewarded at some point in the future. So when you were saying that, I was thinking, well, you'd have to like assert yourself if you wanted to get a referral fee, unless somebody said to you, oh, I'm happy, I'd be happy to give you a fee, you know, and thank you so much for the referral. So how do you get past that awkwardness, or how do you go about doing it so you actually get something for farming out a case to somebody else?
So assuming that the state situation, jurisdiction allows for it and all that stuff is covered, right? And if we were just talking in terms of like style and conversation, the way that I would approach it, because it's how people have approached it with me, and I think it's like nice. So to be fair, I don't really do it outside of personal injury where it's very understood and like, you know, clear that that's what happens. I don't ask for it, and I'll explain why. No, I have a reason I don't. But the way that people have asked me for it is they're like, hi, I have a potential referral for you. It's a trademark, blah, blah. I was just wondering if you do referral fees. Do you pay referral fees? And that, I mean, that's a great way to start. It's that simple, but I was just wondering, I was just curious if you happen to, it's just a great way to start the conversation. And I mean, if they're the type that will, they will say so. I also know some attorneys that outwardly say it. They're like, I'm looking for blah, blah, blah. I pay referral fees. Like they say so. Okay. Mostly personal injury people, but yeah.
So so when you were saying the percentage of income, you were really referring to the PI, which I didn't realize. That
no, okay. Yeah. I'm okay. And so let me get to that. It's like a multi-part thing. And please continue dropping questions in the chat too, because I'm going to hit all of them. Like I said, I don't have a hard stop. I mean, within reason. I do need to eat something at some point, but I'm happy to, like, you know, and it doesn't have to be, by the way, on these sessions, like this is totally out of nowhere about nothing, right? Like about nothing we talked about. So, and I'm happy to talk about it. Why not? So drop whatever you're wondering about. So the reason I don't is I think it relates to what your practice area is and what your offerings are. So in that sense, like, because I do trademarks and trademarks alone and trademarks only, right? It's super specific. So I have the opportunity and the position to dole out a lot of referrals on a daily basis. Like that's a good chunk of my emails is like introducing different, franchise attorney, real estate person, divorce attorney, whatever. And because I know what I do is so specific that like, I'm going to be the recipient of any time that, and I am like, I'm the go-to for all these people that I'm sending all these miscellaneous work. So that's the big reason why I don't. And also, I don't think Georgia allows for it. So and this ties to a question that somebody asked about states. So I'm licensed in Georgia. I am also licensed, but inactive in Maryland and DC. I had quite the trajectory the last several years. I am not licensed in California. I live here. I'm from here. And I'm not licensed here. I don't intend to be. I don't want to be. I don't want to take that bar. I actually did take it in February 2017, failed it by 4 points. Yeah. Not taking it again. Nope. It was the most miserable experience of my life. And this is why I really hope that you guys appreciate the transparency, because like, that's not fun to admit, but I want to be so honest about what works, what doesn't, good stuff I'm killing it at, what I'm not killing it at, right? And learn from my experiences. I took the California bar. It was an emotional decision. It was ego driven. It was, I'm from California. I live here. I'm a California girl. How can I not be barred in California? It made no damn business sense. You guys, I do trademarks and trademarks only, right? But I let it get the best of me. I let it get in my head. And what happened? So if you're following along, I quit in January 2015 from my last job. I was 5 years out. 2017, around that, because I took the February bar, right? So around Christmas, the year prior, so like late 2016, early 2017 is when I started studying. My firm is 2 years old. It is in growth mode. Right? I was killing it. I was doing so well. And what happened? I stepped back to study, right? I had some help, but like nowhere near what I have now. I was relying a lot on automations and back-end stuff, but I had like a VA, I was stitching my shit together. Everything suffered. It's like peanut butter that's spread way too thin on a piece of toast. You're not accurately covering any of it. Right? So the firm revenue suffered because I wasn't present and things started falling through the cracks. I didn't have the systems and processes in place to step away at that level. I just did not. Like I could go on vacations and do that kind of stuff. I was doing that, but not that level. And then of course my studying suffered. I couldn't give the energy to, and the time. You guys know what is involved in a bar, and the California bar, no less. And so one suffered, the others, I didn't do either of them correctly or well, and both suffered. And it was completely pointless, right? And I share that because it's so important not to make decisions based on emotions in your business, right? I mean, anywhere really, but let's not talk about our personal lives. But if there's not a hard hit reason to do something, and this goes for like getting an LLM, this goes for going to a conference that we talked about, right? If you can't delineate the reasons and enumerate them and be very clear, like write it down and take it to a friend and be like, this is why I'm doing this thing that's going to cost me time and money. You better be able to explain it and have a projected ROI from it that really makes sense, because I mean, it can make or break you. And so, that was a very unfun part. And so to wind it back to the question about states, I'm licensed in Maryland and DC, inactive because I don't ever plan on living there again. I was there years ago. I'm active. My main and big bar is Georgia, even though it came later in the process. So that came in 2013. So 3 years later, not barred in California. But the beauty of trademarks is that I think someone asked me about this. My clients are all over the country. It's amazing. They're all over the world because you can. So it's pretty awesome. So to answer your question, Georgia, which is my main bar that I am adhered to, right? That's a jurisdiction for all. I mean, that's where the law corp is. That's where everything is. They don't allow referral fees. So that's my answer to that. Okay, let me scroll back up. Would you please share the conference names again? Yes, IFA annual meeting, FAN annual meeting in DC, and then ABA forum on franchising. There is also what did I just go to? Oh, no, wait, no, never mind. That was something else. That wasn't trademark related. Some kind of budget outline. You got it. I will put that together for you guys. Probably not by tomorrow, obviously, but yes, like we will spend some time on it. I'm a newer attorney, barred during COVID, and have only been to virtual conferences thus far. Do you have tips for maximizing your time, conferences, networking at conferences? Yes, I do. There is a whole class on networking and conferences in the old portal. And we'll spend some time on that during Empire Week as well. Are your clients limited to Georgia and California or not? So they're national, yeah. Live conferences, yeah. So there's a whole class on that in the old Empire, which will then become the new Empire. Same here, licensed in Colorado, but I live in San Diego. Tried the California bar one time, never again. Yeah, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, especially because it doesn't make any sense. We really value your transparency, Sonia. Oh, I'm glad, because some of that stuff, okay, it's super fun to admit and share that like I can travel anywhere and I have a team and that, you know, we're doing really well revenue wise and that, you know, I'm interviewed for this and I'm keynoting that. Like I love sharing the wins with you to show you what's possible, right? From a kid with, you know, immigrant, poor parents, no big law, shitty grades. Like I would love being able to tell you guys that kind of stuff. But then I'm like, look, she failed the bar by 4 points. It is what it is. California was the worst test and I took it when it was 3 days long. Sucked. Yeah. I took the 2-day attorney's exam and couldn't even hack that. Thanks for sharing that lesson. Failed Virginia right out of law school 20 years ago. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. Same license in Maryland, lived in California, but didn't take the bar. Now living in Texas. Do not. Yeah. We are done with bars, guys. Let's just be done. Unless you have a really good reason, and feel free to ask me. I'm happy to discuss. Yes. Okay. I know your firm is registered in Georgia. Why do you have mail go there and forwarded to you in California rather than a California mailing address on your website? Is that considered operating in California if it did that? It's just for ease. I mean, that's my HQ. I think it's just easier that way. I mean, I'm big on like simplifying. I don't see a reason. That's just easy. That's not gonna probably change because I mean, I like having that presence. It's really good for our Google, my business, our listings, all of that. It's a real brick and mortar office. There's a receptionist there and multiple lawyers that work there. They're just not my it's like a suite of like, if you go to suite 300, there's a receptionist. And like, if you go in there, like it's a whole hallway of like, but it's not a Regis. Like, there's like a whole entire landlord and everything. It's like a true, and my office was there at one point, like if you're curious, but we took that aspect away. What is your website for trademarks? I will share it with you. It's just lacanilaw.com right here. And if you go to courses, like I mentioned earlier, there's tons of resources. My goal really is to build out the closest I can get to Amazon for trademark practitioner materials. And so we're getting there. There's tons of different videos and trainings and workbooks on specific topics, things that you guys might need. Again, you know, see where this course takes you because we're going to cover tons. So you don't need anything, you know, at the moment. But if you want to take a look, because you do have a 10% off standing discount as an alum all year long. And Cyber Monday, it stacks with the site-wide 20% off. That's the only sale we ever have. So I was just wondering, in case California considered an activity and would want to charge you corporate taxes in addition. Yeah, I mean, we're totally prepared, but I mean, if and when that happens. But I also have multiple other entities and stuff for all the other stuff I do as well. So this is great for this education stuff, but what if we have a referral for you? Well, thank you. That's actually funny that you say that because people are like, oh, has your business suffered since you started essentially like teaching your competition? And I'm like, no, it has only gotten better. And so I appreciate that. Of course, you know, that's not why I'm teaching, but I am appreciative of it. If you ever want to, you know, do that, or if you have, you know, something you want to send me, I'm sharing my email right there. But also you have my email because everything comes from me. So you can just reply to anything. It all comes to me. I'm just not the one physically answering it. So I have amazing, amazing people that like, I haven't actually written an email in I don't know how long, but everybody gets a response. Like, I think last time I checked this morning, we were sitting at like 1,300. I mean, I get a lot of emails, but I don't mind it. Like, I mean, we have people answering it, and we're going to talk about this, by the way, because I know everyone's like, oh my God, that's a dream come true. You too can have, you know, I mean, if we want, like, I mean, a breakout session on that process like, I can teach you guys that. Like, you don't have to have a multi 6-figure, 7-figure firm to get help with something as mundane as email. Like, I highly recommend it. You'll make a lot more money. I promise you. When your emails get answered faster, the money comes in quicker. I promise you, because people are getting what they need. They're getting the payment link. They're getting an answer to their question about retaining you. Things just move faster. So yeah, we can do that. We can do that. Any other questions? I know today was basic for a lot of you, but my newcomers, because I said, like, I know my veterans are like, okay, yeah, that was day one. But for my newcomers, was this helpful? Do you feel like you're like off to a good start? Like, strong start? Okay, good. Yay, good. Any other questions? Anything you guys want to shoot the shit about? I'll stay on for like another 10 minutes. Let's say till 6:30 Eastern. So like it's 6:20 or not. I mean, you're welcome. My pleasure. I'm so happy to have you guys. Thank you above all for trusting me to teach you, and for taking a chance on yourself, investing in yourself, investing in the program. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to have you guys. And this is just the beginning. All right. Well, it sounds like, first of all, we've definitely lost several people. I think people were like, all right, we're done. I hope the time frame is okay. This seems to be, I mean, of all the years I've been teaching sessions and webinars and stuff, this seems to be the sweet spot. Like, it's not so late on the East Coast that it interferes with like dinner and stuff, but then it's also accessible for my Pacific, where I am and everybody in between. Is this okay? And Lainey, I know you're in Hawaii, so hopefully it's okay on your end. It's like really early in the day for you, right? She's my one person I know who's in Hawaii. I don't know. She might have left. Anything else? Thanks so much. Timing is perfect, but I'm in Pacific too. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to find that sweet spot, but I think we got it. Thank you for doing this live. It finally got me motivated to start reviewing the materials I brought pre-COVID. Oh, I know there's a lot of you guys. That's okay. That is okay. Sure. One more question on that. Let me just make sure no one else has, just so that everybody gets like does anybody else have a question? I'll take one more, and it can be Tara's unless someone has something, just so we're fair. Okay. All right. It's all yours.
Are you taking volunteers when you do the hot seat exercise, or do you already have people picked out?
No, I do not have people picked out. Volunteers are fine.
Okay. And do you want us to email you? I know I would love it specifically for niche selection. And I think getting people's input and explaining how very niche I would like to be, and knowing that I'm going to be launching at the beginning of September would just be really helpful so that I could start off the right way.
Yeah. So the way that the group code, so they're on your syllabus titled recap/group coaching. Now, the way those, and I'll explain this, prior to those sessions, but the way those are going to work is that there's no slides. That's me coming on at the day and time to piggyback on anything that you're not clear about. Hey, can you go back to that one slide, or question about whatever, right? Recapping, / group coaching, as in whoever's here on that session, we're going to take hot seats and we'll go as long as we can. And we'll cover as many people as we can. So that's going to be like based on how many people are on there and want a turn, based on, and then like how much time we have. We'll probably do like, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, ask your question, get the group feedback, kind of like speed dating meets laser coaching. Does that make sense? So that's probably how we'll do it. So you don't need to email me, just make sure you attend that one. And that's how we'll structure it. Question here. You're welcome. You're welcome. Sorry, Kajabi, we go straight to their site, or can we go to your site to upload the videos? So you're going to log into Kajabi using your login credentials. If you receive them and can't get in for some reason or whatever happened, shoot me an email. We'll get you all sorted out. That is everybody's sort of like, priority for today, because we know that's the one thing you need. And again, to clarify for one last time, we are not sending out mass emails every day with Zoom links. If you're in Kajabi, you should have access to the revamp. Yeah. So if you click in your library, there's the revamp product. And if you click that, you'll start to see all the modules, and every module has Zoom link. It's literally titled Zoom link. So hot seat will be a lot faster than in 1.0 where it was in depth with 3 people. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different. I mean, 1.0, that course was so much smaller than this is that, you know, we're going to have definitely a lot more than 3 people. But again, like I said, I'm your guys's resource. If we don't cover, I'm not going to let anybody get sort of like pushed under the rug. Like if we don't get to somebody or we don't cover it, like we'll make extra time. We'll figure it out. Okay, yeah, shoot me an email and we may send out like an email with a screenshot just showing you how to find it, but that's the best way. Can't get into Kajabi. Your team is trying to help, but no luck so far. Well, no, it won't be the same Zoom link. We have to get you guys into Kajabi. As a backup, like how I did today, like I'll share it maybe one more time, but you guys were really trying to cut back on the email. It's just not efficient. We have to get you guys. What's the problem that you're having? Because I want to see if other people are like equally having difficulties.
Unmute and tell you.
You can, sure, yeah.
Okay, so the problem is, I took the other course and my email is info@ChabelleMcPherson.com, but my Gmail is a different email. And so when I go to log into Kajabi, because I know my passcode and I get in, but it keeps telling me that I have to accept the terms of conditions. But when I go to accept it, it tells me I've already accepted them because they sent it to my Gmail. So I don't know if it's because it's 2 different email accounts between the account email that I'm registered for the course and the email for the terms and conditions. I'm not certain.
Okay, so you're seeing that like red, like bing, bing, like click here, accept terms and conditions in your library. Yes. Okay, yes. That's not going to stop you from anything. You should still see the revamp in your library.
So I'll look again, but when I checked, I saw just the old course.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't see the new course.
We'll troubleshoot.
I have the same problem that she's having.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
So I'm going to check now.
Okay. Yeah, check now. We will do our best to get you guys situated. I mean, I'm not going to leave you high and dry, obviously. Like, I'll make sure you guys get everything. But you see why I'm trying to like move away from email. It's just really inefficient. So and Kajabi really is where, I mean, the whole point of it is it's a learning platform. So we really do want to get that, you know, situated for you guys. I had the terms problem, but that notice doesn't mean anything. I had to realize I needed to click on the new course and then from there. Yeah, exactly. It says revamp.
Sonia?
Yeah,
I'm getting, well, I got the reset link and the link is just sending me to the page to register for the course. It's not sending me to a page to reset the password. So that's my issue.
Okay. You're having the same issue. Okay. Let me meet with everybody. So let me log off. Let me meet with them. Let me see what's been going on the last couple hours since we've been on. Okay. I promise you, we will get you situated.
I just want to say, I just tried it and it's the same thing. And if I go to look at the new course, it just asks me, do I want to enroll? It doesn't say I'm enrolled.
Okay. So that seems to be the problem several people are having, is that the password reset is asking you to register for the course rather than a true reset. Is that, am I hearing correctly?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to attach a screenshot here?
No, we'll figure it out. We got it.
Okay.
Thank you though. Thank you. Just be patient. We'll get you guys all situated. I promise. And also if you have an email in already, you don't need to send another one. Got you. Just give us a second. I love you guys. There's over 500 of you. So I know it's a blessing. I remember when I started it with like 10 people in 2017 and look at us now. Okay. Any other questions aside from logistics? All right. That's a wrap for day 1. Thank you guys. We are going to upload. We are going to troubleshoot. We're going to get emails situated. I promise you, I love you guys to pieces. So I will not leave you high and dry. We'll probably still send out a Zoom link, you know, hopefully tomorrow is the last one, just as like a backup if you can't, but please don't like rely on that because I really, really don't want to do this every day for the next 3 weeks, please. Okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I know. I'm just like in a tank top, keeping it real, living the dream. I know my friends, when they come over, So this is my home office, in case you guys are curious. So that's like one of the walls. I don't know if you can see, but like I collect sneakers. So this is like one of the pieces I have is like the patent drawing of like an original Jordan. And then there's like a little art where it's like a woman's legs and like one has a Jordan on it, one has a heel. Cause like, that's like my two, you know, kind of personalities. And then that one you probably can't see, but it's a crossword puzzle, like a Scrabble. And every word going in which direction is the name of like a famous sneaker. So like you have Dunk and like Air Force, Cortez, you know, Air Max, Nike, all that kind of stuff. So this is my sneakers. And then if you look up there, that's the skyline of Atlanta, because the law firm was born in Atlanta. I was not, but I went to school there, I went to Emory. That's where everything was birthed. That's where my office is. And that's just, I've lived there 3 different times. Like it's shaped who I am. So it only made sense for the home office to have kind of homage to those aspects. And so it's so funny when my friends come over, this is like a corner of my apartment, and, you know, they're like, that's where you make your millions from? And I'm like, yeah, it's just a stupid desk in the corner. Like me sitting here in yoga pants. There's nothing crazy, but this is what I want to share with you guys, that gone are the days where you need to have worked in a fancy law firm and be, you know, on journal and have 20 years of experience before you can quit on going on your own. And you don't need, you can have those things if you want to, but you don't have to have them. I am living proof. And so are so many of my students, because again, you don't have to take my word for it. I want to share with you guys, I don't know how many of you guys had a chance to see this new page. Hold on. Here, I'm going to screen share with you guys because it is freaking sick. I'm so excited. Okay, can you guys see this? So this is our new like brag page. So I have my YouTube channel, in case you guys haven't seen it already, where like I started documenting case studies of my students and just making videos and like educating and stuff. But this is like my like legit like brag page. So like we have all these interviews and like it just showcasing like Nicole, 5 to 10 new clients a week. To Cora, as you guys know, she added 100K to her revenue right after she took my course a few years ago. She was one of my earliest students and she recently passed 7 figures. Look at all these screenshots, just raw footage. Like Christy, who is hitting 50K months, has mom of 2 and a cat, getting great results. Saludo added 50K, more screenshots. Like this is just, it's just my love page. Like, and I am just so proud of my students because it's their hard work being displayed, but it also just shows you like it can be done. And I'm not a fluke, like I'm not like a fluke story, you know? So yeah, excited. Lots of things to come. Oh, one last thing before we wrap up here. I had multiple questions, DMs, emails, etc., about adding on the Empire Week. So if you're already Empire, you have the week, it's free, it's obviously included. If not, I will take a moment to share with you guys. Hold on, let me find what I'm looking for. Hang on. One sec. Share screen. Aha, here we go. Okay, so those of you who are only in Boss of Myself, you probably got emails regarding the upgrade. So this is where we are. This is our overview of a syllabus. If you go on, we go into detail about like all the different classes. Like each one is covered separately, so you can see what you'd be learning. But this is Boss of Myself. So week 1, week 2, that's 2 weeks of trademarks. That's the core program. And yes, of course, as you saw, we're going to talk a ton about, you know, systems and business and marketing all throughout, right? Like it doesn't live in a vacuum. But this shit right here, week 3, this is where it's at. And I'm going to zoom in on it because you guys really need to see. So social media content strategy, that's Nina and Chandler. I've hired them personally. They have helped with a lot of my content on the back end and really helped build out like branding, figuring out your ideal client, your niche, all that stuff, and just how, developing a content strategy. And then, I talked about Conquer the Consultation. Takora and I are teaching this together. We have two very different styles of how we do our consults, both clearly very effective since we both have cleared 7 figures doing this. But it's such an amazing class just by itself that it's just incredible. Like that's where we're going to take everything we've learned and taught with you and show you how to present it in a scripted framework. And so we're going to do like a role play and like kind of like mock sort of showing you like, hey, how do I answer that? Or, hey, that's a great question. It's literally going to be me doing it in front of you. And then there's a session. This was not included in the previous version. This is one example of many of like how we're making this like bigger, better, faster. But it's called the pricing playbook, how to set your trademark fees and get paid what you're worth. And so this is pricing techniques, pricing strategies. This is where like, if you're iffy and feeling icky about the sales aspect of it, like we're going to talk a lot about that and really kind of, fix some of that for you. Because I don't want you guys out here undercharging. And then the session after that is back office breakdown, as you can see. So we're going to go through systems, processes, client communication, all the stuff that makes it turn well on the back end so that you're not in the email all the time. You're not doing manual stuff all the time. Takora's co-teaching that with me again. And then on Friday, it's called the wow factor, how to build referrals for a steady stream of trademark clients without advertising. And so that's where I've referred to a lot, where I really am going to break down all the different buckets of people that you really want to know. For example, franchise attorneys, all these little best kept secrets, like, oh, I didn't realize that person could be, and I'm going to teach you guys how to outreach to them, how to create a plan. And this is all without paying for advertising. Like we're going to do it the old fashioned way and build referrals. It's a better way to go. It's a much more reliable way to go. And it's how I've built my practice. So I'm teaching you firsthand how I did it. So that being said, if you haven't upgraded, I would love to have you. These folks are going to get a super huge intensive on the business and marketing side. And remember, you get 2 personal strategy calls with me after all of this, despite all of this that you may learn and all the real-time questions. So it's definitely worth it, like beyond worth it. If you're interested at all, I definitely would take a look. You can upgrade. You get a credit for what you paid from Boss and Myself just toward Empire. And so you can upgrade up until the Friday before we start Empire Week. So basically next Friday. So you do have some time. You don't have to decide right now, but I would love to have you if you're interested in that sort of stuff. Any other questions? Anything? All right, that's a wrap. We're going to get to troubleshooting. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thank you.